Hello, friends, and welcome to the Mythological Africans podcast, where we read and talk about stories from African mythology and folklore. I am your host, Helen Tunde. Welcome back to our April exploration of African folk music. In last week's episode, we looked at different instruments used in musical storytelling and communication in general on the African continent. We heard water drumming from the Baka or Bayaka forest people of Central Africa. We heard lithophones or rock drums, the shekere, the balafon, the mvet, and the divine mbira. All these utensils, so to speak, are part of the repertoire used by storytellers from across the continent to add color, texture, and taste to the delicious meals they serve up on the big old platter of musical folklore. Like eating, from farm to plate, bush to firelit gathering, musical storytelling in traditional African communities can be a dynamic, communal, and yet intimate affair. People draw from their encounters with the familiar and the unknown, apply their understanding of the world, and create something with which to feed their families and communities' spirits. This can be a solitary affair. Picture a trader coming back from a trip to another town with new and exciting items and stories to tell her family. It can also be a communal endeavor. Picture a hunter, after a successful hunt, joining his fellow hunters to sing songs about their knowledge of and experiences with the forest and different animals. When stories are being told and there is singing involved, the storyteller is sometimes accompanied by individuals who work with them to provide vocal or instrumental backup. These could be professional storytellers themselves or members of the audience, even if they are children. Together, they tell the story, serving up the warm, satisfying comfort of known accounts with the exciting novelty of improvisations, which mix fresh material into known ideas, storytelling patterns, and motifs. This ability to improvise is an important part of African storytelling, especially when the children are the storytellers. Among the Venda and Shona of Southern Africa, Ngano are folk tales told, usually by older women like grandmothers to children. In the past, and hopefully in some places still, Ngano are told gathered around the fire in the evenings of the colder times of the year, when the chores of the day are done and the weather does not allow for long hours out in the farms. Among the Shona, the person who tells the story is called Surangano, which means owner of the stories. Suranganos can be professional storytellers, that is, people known in the community for their ability to cook up and serve delicious stories, songs, proverbs, poems, and more. With Ngano, as with many forms of storytelling and wordsmithing, what might on the surface seem to be an activity performed for the fun of it, in reality, is an important way through which children usually are taught about their communities and the world they inhabit. It also gives them an opportunity, through their own storytelling efforts, to develop their personalities. Ngano range from simple formulaic stories to elaborate accounts, but they all have one defining feature: singing and music making, which follows a call and response pattern. The Surangano calls out the chant, or the song, and the listeners sing back the response.
Purum tada puru, purum tada puru, purum tada puru, bakaranga banama, babura bukaya shango, baita mulisa ngombe, purum tada puru, purum tada puru, bakaranga banama, babura bukaya shango, baita mulisa ngombe, baita mulisa ngombe.
This song, Fulu Mutada Fulu, comes from a Venda story about an orphan who was treated poorly. This is a popular theme in traditional African stories, perhaps because, on the one hand, it can teach children what to expect from adults who truly love and care for them, and on the other, it cautions adults and parents about how damaging their unchecked emotional and other excesses can be for children. The instrument you hear is commonly called a ground bowl, although some African ethnomusicologists question that name. Some traditional names for the instrument include Dumbu Kalinga in Venda, Zika Muhenga in Shona, and Makalapo to the Seychellois. It consists of a sounding board made from a flat metal plate which is placed over a hole in the ground. A single wire string is attached to the metal plate on one end and to a sturdy tree branch on the other. The tree branch is stuck into the ground at a sufficient distance to both stretch the wire and bend the branch into the characteristic semicircle of a bowl. When plucked, the ground bowl's wire produces that deep resonant twang which sounds almost like the earth humming, doesn't it? Mouth bowls are another kind of single string instrument played across the African continent to accompany storytelling. The instrument is aptly named. The player's mouth cavity amplifies the sound it makes. Ground and mouth bowls are two of the numerous types of African musical bowls, many of which are under threat of complete disappearance. Thankfully, folk musicians like Sekuru Kompa Murazekwa of Zimbabwe are working hard to keep this knowledge and other musical traditions alive. Back to Ngano. There are a couple of great collections of Ngano out there, which include the stories and songs, sheet music for the songs, and commentary about the Ngano. You will find links to two of these collections, as well as other reading resources, in the episode notes. Repositories like the Rhodes University International Library of African Music are systematically archiving samples of traditional African musical and other oral art for future generations. They have a great collection of Ngano songs with instrumental accompaniment performed by Venda and other storytellers. And even though the communal and familial performance of Ngano is a dying art, there are many Southern African storytellers who, through music, books, podcasts, and other media, continue to find new ways to keep the tradition alive. So if you want to hear a properly told Ngano, head over to Sarura Kids where Gogo, that is grandmother, Alice, a Shona Sarangano, and professional educator is telling stories and teaching. Thank you for listening and see you next time.